welcome to the session. So let's begin the session by doing some deep breath. So take a deep breath in, hold and breathe out. Repeat again. Aren't you feeling fresh and energetic? Now tell me, where does the air actually goes when we breathe in? You might say it goes to our lungs. Well, yes, it's correct. The air passes through the respiratory tract and then enters to the lungs. So now, let us explore the features and parts of human respiratory system. So the air enters to the human body through the nostril, which then passes through the nasal cavity. The air is filtered by the special hair like structure in the nasal cavity called the cilia. The cells of the nasal cavity secrete mucus which trap the dust particles and block it from moving ahead. Also provide warmth and add moisture to the air. The nasal cavity has specialized sensory cells that are sensitive to smell and odor. And yes, that is the reason why our nose is a sense organ. Now, the nasal cavity opens into a much wider cavity called the pharynx. It is a common passage for air and food. It is easily visible when you open your mouth wide. Yes, it's the region behind the tongue. Now, tell me, has this ever occurred to you that while having food you might cough? Yes, because the food accidentally enters the other pipe. Well, yes, this never happens otherwise because the pharynx has cartilaginous flap-like structure called the epiglottis. Now, this epiglottis closes the windpipe when we swallow the food. Also prevent the entry of food into the windpipe. So, while swallowing, if the epiglottis is partially closed, we cough. Followed by the pharynx is a region called the larynx or the voice box. The larynx in male are often seen protruding out and is called the Adam's apple. Now, from here, the air passes through a 4-inch long tube like structure called the trachea. Now, the trachea is often referred to as windpipe. If you carefully observe the structure, there are many C-shaped cartilaginous rings present. Now, what do you think? What would be the function of these rings? So, the function of these rings is to prevent the collapsing of the windpipe. So now, close to the lungs, the trachea divides into two tubes called the bronchi. The single tube is called the bronchus. Now, each of these tubes enter to the respective lungs. So now, on entering the lungs, each bronchus is divided into secondary bronchus, which further divides into finer tube called the tertiary bronchus and much finer bronchioles. Now, by repeating branching, the bronchioles ultimately enters in a cluster tiny air sac like structure called the alveoli. The alveoli are often referred to as air sac. Now, the alveoli are surrounded with blood vessels. They are the actual site for gaseous exchange. Now, talking about the respiratory organ lungs. So, the lungs are a pair of spongy organs located in the chest cavity. Carefully observe the size of the lungs. Are they two are of same size? Well, no. The right lungs is larger than the left lungs.